Hi, hope you're well. I'm going to get right into it today. Let us talk about this. Actions made audible. Soon, otherwise known as Jack Dangers, in, is it Addie or Addie Newton? Sorry if I'm mispronouncing the first name, Addie. I'll say Addie Newton. From Clock DVA, you have Clock DVA guy and Meat Beat Manifesto guy working together. And I know the people that like to watch my channel are big Meat Beat Manifesto and Clock DVA fans, and what better release to discuss than this? Soon, Actions Made Audible. The new album, EP, I guess it's an album. A short album, long EP. You get 5 tracks on here, and it's a good, I would say a good half an hour, maybe more, like somewhere between 30 and 40 minutes. So it's lengthy. And they have put out some other releases before. This is the first thing I've seen them actually put out on a physical record. Maybe I'm missing that. Maybe they've done something else on vinyl. I don't know, but I was eager to pick this up because, as you know, I'm a massive Jack Dangers fan, and I'm a big Clock DVA fan. So it was cool to get this. And I'm happy to report it's a really cool album. It's very like anything. I would recommend you listen to this without reading about it first. I haven't read anything about it. I don't know. I don't know if this is an album or an album, a record or 12-inch or an EP or whatever that you're going to find a lot of reviews on anyway. I'm sure most people who post reviews on the internet probably aren't going to take the time and spend the time to listen to something like this, but that's why I'm here, to give you my thoughts. And I really enjoy this. I'm trying to think of something that I could compare it to in relation to the Clock DVA or Meat Beat Manifesto catalog. I think those of you who are more Clock DVA fans and you are Jack Dangers fans, I think you guys are going to be more open to this. This really doesn't sound like much Jack Dangers has ever done. If I did compare this to anything Jack Dangers has ever done, it's the more wacky stuff on his Subliminal Sandwich album, which I love. If you go watch my Subliminal Sandwich video that I did a few years ago, you'll know that that's my favorite Meat Beat album. So it's very, I don't want to say ambient, but it sounds like old school, very analog tape op type electronics. Almost like early Joe Meek or Raymond Scott or stuff like that. It's very buried and ensconced in old school electronic circuitry and gadgetry on a very analog level, and it's cool. I guess it sounds retro in that way, but it still sounds more interesting than a lot of electronic music that comes out today, to my ears, in my opinion. So those of you who kind of like that old school, super old school analog tinkering around inside the electronics type of sound, you'll probably dig this. This is a pretty cool record. Really enjoyed this. I've listened to this a few times, and it's a mood. It's definitely a mood piece. You Meat Beat fans out there, I would still recommend this, but don't expect it to sound like Meat Beat Manifesto. It doesn't. In fact, of the 5 tracks on here, here's the back cover. Of the 5 tracks on here, there's only one track that has any semblance of drums. Other than that one, and I think it's probably the shortest track on here. I don't remember which track it is, but yeah, only one of these tracks has any kind of idea of a drum pattern on it. The rest of it is just pure analog electronic vibes, which is cool. Takes me back. And again, I think those of you who like that old Clock DVA sound, you're going to find plenty to like about this. I wish I knew more about these two working together. They have worked together before. Obviously, they just have a deep respect for each other's work. Addie Newton's been around for a very long time, longer than Jack Dangers, making music. We all know who Jack is and how long he's been around. So these are two veterans working together, giving you some pretty cool, psychedelic, even out there electronic sounds. I don't quite know how to put it. You just have to listen to it. It's fun. It's a fun listen. Let me give you some credits as they're listed here on the back. Let's see. Recorded at Tape Lab, San Francisco, 2022. I believe that is Jack Danger's studio, isn't it? Tape Lab? I know Jack Dangers is still living in San Francisco, I'm assuming. He's been there for a long time. Let's see. Is there anything else? Artwork. Equipment used on production. EMS Synth 100, EMS Synth AKS Universal Sequencer, EMS Synth High Fly, Moog System 35, ARP 2000, Korg PS 3300, Roland System 100, Mellotron, Revox, is that 877, Roland RE301, RE301. So you get, if you want to understand the kind of sound you're going to be getting, there you go. Old school electronic vibes here. When I was listening to this, I couldn't help but think of like Raymond Scott, Joe Meek, that early analog electronic stuff, but repackaged in a new way. And in a way that only these two guys could deliver. It's not, people, I've talked about this plenty of times, but those of you who are thinking you're going to get some kind of industrial sound here, I mean, not really. I don't know. Industrial, you can expand that and stretch it and bend it in any way you want. I think maybe there's an argument that maybe there's some industrial influence here, but I don't think so. I never thought Meat Beat was really all that industrial anyway, and I've never thought Clock DVA was all that industrial either. I thought it way more experimental than industrial. Industrial by its nature is experimental, but I think industrial is industrial and experimental can be experimental. And I just don't think this is very industrial, and I don't think these guys have really made industrial music. They dabble in it, but overall, I don't see it. And you bring those two minds together and you get this. I would recommend, I've never seen the other release they put out on vinyl. I can't remember the name of it, but it's like a full album, maybe even a double album worth of stuff. Never seen a vinyl release, but you can download it. And I can't remember the name of it. I'm sorry. In fact, let me pull that up. Let me bore the hell out of everybody and pull up the name and the title of their other release because it's worth it. Maybe there is a vinyl release. I'm going to find out for the first time. It is called Noise. It came out in 2019. And yeah, it's like 75 minutes, so it's a double album. Only on CD. And I do have this CD. I could have swore I downloaded it somewhere. But I do have this CD. You get 6 tracks totaling 75 minutes on that release. So a much more substantial in time release that is called Noise. Maybe that'll get a vinyl release someday. I don't know. But in the meantime, you should pick this up. If you don't want to buy the record, and I don't blame you for not wanting to pick it up, it is on Apple Music. So you Apple Music subscribers, it's there. So enjoy. I will show the record very quickly. It's funky colored wax. You get the boring paper inner sleeve. You get the blue vinyl. It actually sounds it sounds okay. It's not a great press, but because the music's quiet, the record plays pretty quietly, which is key. And whoever mastered it did a pretty good job. It is in that paper sleeve right off the bat, so you do hear some ticks and pops here and there, but whatever. You have to deal with that when, well, you have to deal with that with pretty much any new vinyl press. You know, it's just, it is what it is. Most new presses just don't get pressed very well. I'm not going to go down that road. I bitch and moan about that enough, and I'm not going to do that in this video. But you Meat Beat fans, this is the new Jack Dangers release. You Clock DVA fans, this is the new Addie Newton release. You Clock DVA and Meat Beat fans, This is the Addie Newton and Jack Danger's new release. So here you go. Actions Made Audible. And if you haven't heard people like Raymond Scott and Joe Meek, you should. You need to go do that. You need to get on that. By the way, now that I've mentioned them, it just dawned on me that maybe you know these guys, but you don't know Meek and Scott. Kind of, this is a nod to that early stuff, I think. But this is much more intense. Again, I think this is more in line with what I would expect a Clock DVA album to sound like, which is fine. I love Clock DVA. You Jack Dangers fans, open up your mind a little bit. This isn't going to be like the hard beats, the dub grooves, Jack yelling and screaming about run for your life. Much more quieter, introspective affair here. Cool record. I'm glad I picked this up. Soon, Actions Made Audible. I'm out. Have a good weekend. Goodbye.